let's talk about this. What's up, golf carts? Chaler here, and today we're bringing you a slightly different kind of video. One, it's pre-recorded, and two, for those who follow the stream, I'm sure you are aware, but I've been learning the Boxx controller for about a month and a half now, and I wanted to make a video that kind of goes through my experience of it and how long I think it takes for the average person to get back to their old GameCube controller skill level on one of these controllers. And the reason I want to make this kind of video is because when I was contemplating switching, there wasn't really information I could find that would tell me how long it would take for me to get back to the kind of skill level I want to be at, or really the long-term frustrations, or even short-term frustrations on the kind of things you go through when learning a new controller and kind of resetting your skill level back to zero. And I mean, luckily for me, I had a friend that would lend me his Boxx, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who don't have that privilege, and so I kind of just want to make this video for you guys out there who might be contemplating switching to a digital controller and want to know this kind of stuff. So how long does it take for you to get back to your skill level on a GameCube controller when relearning on a digital one? Well, first, let's talk about the sample here. Me. So I'm a 23-year-old dude working 26 hours a week with a few different commitments like streaming when I'm not playing Melee, and I'm currently planning a wedding, so I think right now I'm basically your average adult when it comes to my free time and the amount of time I can really put into the game. I think I put in about 10 to 15 hours in the later weeks when I was a bit busier, and probably a bit more in the earlier weeks when I had a bit more enthusiasm and I was kind of just sitting around grinding tactical and watching TV shows just to kind of rebuild the basic muscle memory. Also, if you want to know about my melee skill, I'm probably slightly better than average is probably a nice way to word it. I think I missed a jump, but that's my skill of a melee, if that affects your opinion on this video at all. So let's go through my journey on the Boxx. Day one, I think, is always going to be the weirdest, as everything is going to feel extremely strange to you. You probably aren't just going to pick this thing up and be a natural with it. It's going to feel probably like the first time you ever held a regular game controller. You're going to be looking down at the controller, try and realize what button is what. Problem with that, though, is this controller's buttons are blank. There's nothing on them. A bit frustrating at the start. Looks nicer in the end, I think. But yeah, definitely frustrating thing at the start. But overall, I think this experience is pretty fun. It's almost nostalgic being back to square one in the game. Doing your first L cancel, hitting your first wave dash. They're really just iconic things that get to be recaptured, almost like a very, very nostalgic experience. It's a great feeling, almost like when you first beat your friend or when you won your first tournament match. It's a really, really interesting, nostalgic trip for the first couple of days. Now, I must warn you, if you aren't much of a grinder, this first week or two is probably going to be quite hard on you, as almost all of it will likely be spent in training mode, trying to get the bearings on your character and its movement. We all know that you need a baseline control of your character before you really start gaining anything from playing people, so the first week or so is going to be mainly spent in training mode, and if that's not for you, it's going to be a hard one. Within 2 weeks, you'll likely be able to play against people, but the muscle memory just probably won't be quite there yet. But now it does bring me to my main point of this kind of learning process, and that's muscle memory, because that's really all the Boxx learning process is. You're rebuilding the muscle memory that you had on a GameCube controller in a different way on your digital controller so that you can play like you used to. Now, I think different parts of this muscle memory will come back faster than others. Much like your basic movement, as you're going to be doing that all the time, and that will let you play against people in a certain capacity. Now, if you want an example of how fast the muscle memory builds, if we skip to 3 weeks in, I think my muscle memory is still developing quite fast. As you can see, if we compare a set I had with a player called Lum 2 weeks in to 3 weeks in, the difference is quite clear. Now, 4 weeks in, I felt quite confident moving around, and honestly, it felt quite fluid in training mode. I was able to wave land around on the platforms, do my wave dashes, hit my L cancels, or my shine movement was pretty nice and fluid. However, the issue with muscle memory is that you have to train it so much that you just aren't thinking at all. Otherwise, when you get in and play against someone, it kind of all falls apart. And that can be pretty frustrating, which we'll get into a little bit later. 1 month in is probably where you can really feel it starting to get there. Though it might feel a bit slow to progress because you're probably past the rapid development stage. Now you're just having to really grind everything into your muscle memory and make it so it's 100% automatic and there's zero thought behind any of it. I think this is what I've been doing for the past 2 weeks probably to the current day, which brings us to a month and a half of playing on the Boxx. Now, based on this, I do feel like I'll probably be back to my original skill and comfort with the game in the next 2 to 3 weeks, based on the rate that I've been going. So if you want an answer to the title of this video, I think it would take someone like me, an average adult, with limited free time, about 2 to maybe 3 months to feel comfortable again like you did on a GameCube controller. However, there are a lot of things that come with that, and I want to talk a bit about that and why the Boxx, even with all of its merits and all of its potential pluses, might not be suited to you personally. What were the struggles that I mentioned earlier? Well, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, it's been a really, really frustrating time learning this thing. I've mainly stuck with this because although my heart is telling me just to pick up the GameCube controller again, with its wonderful clicks and lovely handles and all those sounds. I love the GameCube controller. I think it's personally better for me to play on the Boxx for some personal reasons, some hand stuff. It's not gonna get too into it in this video. But why has it been so frustrating, you ask? Well, I think it's mainly boils down to just one thing, and that's ego. I don't think anyone would deny that they have an ego in this game. Everyone's proud to be better than someone else, and when you're thrown down in skill level so drastically, it really does have a effect on that ego. It can really affect your self-esteem within that game, and that's rough. That's a rough time. I want to make the distinction that I don't think this frustration really gets to you until you're about the stage I was talking about, where that rapid improvement starts to slow down a little bit, and it's more about the whole repetition of muscle memory and repeating everything you're practicing to try and get it just to be automatic. Because essentially you get to this point where you feel like you have enough control of your character that you should be able to play close to your level. However, when you play people, you start getting hit by silly things that you might have been able to deal with easily on your controller. Maybe a Marth is spamming F smash, but you're just not quite comfortable enough with your shield play that you can deal with it as nicely as you used to, and you just get hit over and over again. You just keep telling yourself, why am I getting hit by this? I know how to deal with it. Maybe a Fox is just full hopping everywhere and you can't quite move with the fluidity that you normally could. So you can't get in the positions to counter it, even though you know what you need to do and where you need to be. Your hands just can't quite do it yet. And honestly, this is just a huge frustration when you're playing the game, and it's paired with this fact that you're almost there. You're very, very comfortable in certain places, but it's just those tiny little bits that really mess you up, and it feels like you're just bad at the game. You're absolutely terrible, and you just keep telling yourself, I'm bad. Was I ever good? I don't think I was. And I've often just picked up my controller just to remind myself that I'm not utter garbage. I need to keep bringing it back, pick up my controller, play a few games, just remind myself that I know how to deal with these things, and this is what I do to deal with those things. And it becomes really hard just to not get really irritated at yourself and beat yourself up about it. This is why I said it might not be for some people. I think some people get to this stage, get so frustrated, and then give up. Losing to people who you beat literally a few weeks ago is a really, really frustrating thing to deal with, and I know some people are way more susceptible to tilt than me, and might not be able to deal with that. It might just make them give up. And hell, I'm barely pushing through this, and I don't think I'm too susceptible to tilt myself, but it's really damn hard to separate yourself and your ego from your gameplay when you're relearning everything. I think it takes a lot of belief that you're going to be better in the end to get through it all. And that's just what's keeping me going. If I was to give an analogy for it, I think it would be something similar to where you have to implement something new into your game plan, and you normally get a little bit worse from doing that where you're implementing it, and then you're better off in the end for it. You just take that to an extreme degree where you're having to basically implement everything you've ever learned one at a time and slowly relearn it all. I think that's a good way to kind of mentally image what you're going to go through when doing it. However, I'm sure there are plenty of people with a really strong mental who would cruise through this kind of thing, who'd be able to detach themselves from the results of what's happening and just look at things very objectively. And if you can do that, props to you. You're amazing. You probably have an amazing mentality for improving and getting better. But I know there's a lot of people who are like me and are going to go through what I've gone through, and that's why I wanted to make this video. So I just wanted to let you guys know about that, how that's affected me, and so hopefully this lets you make a good judgment on if you want to take a dive into the world of digital controllers and go through such a significant learning process over a decent amount of time. 2 to 3 months is quite a while. If you're interested in my personal journey with the Boxx, then I stream 3 times a week over on twitch.tv/ChalerTV. I'm going to be doing a lot of Boxx streams over the next 2 to 3 weeks as I do that final push I mentioned to try and get my controller level up to where it was. And if you liked this kind of video, then drop a like on the video, let me know. Hit subscribe to the channel. You know, there's a certain amount of people aren't subscribed and there's a chart and I don't care about it. So subscribe and I don't have to look at the chart. Don't forget to drop a comment as well if you have any experience with a digital controller. I would love to hear about it. I would love to know what your experience is with a digital controller. Did you experience the same frustration I did? Did you just cruise on through? Did you learn the game with a digital controller? Let me know what that was like. I would love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.